They don't have to tell you they declare martial law. They just have to tell each other. $11,003, take over our aircraft. $11,004, the president can move people at will wherever he pleases. How many camps do FEMA have? 600 different camps. Most of the old defunct military bases have been turned into FEMA camps. Some are underground, some are above ground. They have over 600 FEMA camps, not including the prisons. This don't include the prisons. 600 FEMA camps all across this country. Most of them you don't even know where they at. You think they're doing that just for the hell of it? You think they're doing that for Mexicans? You think they're doing that for Latinos? They bringing him here to replace you. You're going to be rounded up in there. No cable, no iPod, no cell phone. Some of y'all couldn't last 5 hours. This is what's coming down the pike. Executive Order 11,005, take over the railroads, waterways, public storage. 11,051, the Office of Emergency Planning to execute the takeovers in the event of war or financial or economic crisis. Now that's interesting, because up until President Obama, martial law could only be called in the event of a national crisis that was related to war. Under Obama, you can declare martial law for damn near anything. It ain't got to be related to war. In fact, what's one of the things that you can declare a martial law for in America? The drug crisis. If the drug crisis gets too far out of hand, which is a bunch of nonsense because we know the CIA sells the drugs, but if the drug crisis gets too far out of hand, Obama can declare martial law. Now, I don't want you to just limit martial law to Obama. Every governor can enact martial law in their own state. Y'all do know that. In other words, you can have martial law in Maryland, but nowhere else. And who are the soldiers under martial law? The National Guard and the Coast Guard. They are the domestic soldiers for martial law. So you need to pay attention to what's going on in your state capital. What's the capital of Maryland? Annapolis. Okay. Executive Order 11,310, Department of Justice to take over all prisons. And you know what they're going to do? They're going to deputize prisoners to go out into the streets and kill people. They're going to deputize prisoners to go out into the streets and kill people. First of all, most states have a militia outside the Coast Guard and the National Guard, which are regular white men with rifles, who can be deputized by the governor at any moment to come into Baltimore. If they declare martial law in the city of Baltimore by the governor of Maryland, they have militias set up in every state, white men with rifles, who can be deputized at any moment to come into your city and shoot black folks at will, to get law and order back. Which is why I don't know why y'all giving y'all guns up. I'm not giving them nothing. I'm not giving them a fly swatter or nothing. You don't give up no weapons. Are you crazy? You sitting in Baltimore surrounded by white suburbs. You are totally surrounded by people who don't like you, and you giving up your guns.
Are all white people bad? Are all this bad?
Let's have that conversation later.
Okay.
Because it's an all-black meeting.
A little bit like, you know, I'm the devil.
I didn't call you that yet. I didn't say it.
Saying it. It's not all about white people being racist.
Okay.
I'm speaking my mind.
Wait, I'm sorry. Did you just wipe your shoulder off when he touched you?
What?
Did you? Where's Soap Bombs at? Where's Soap Bombs? Okay.
You're
Take care now.
You're welcome.
Look at Jabbar, he was on it. He was on it. I want to test the white woman because she might get one of the FEMA camps. We go out and test the white woman. Okay, now let's talk about this. She might have been an agent.
Yeah, they sent her.
When I was the keynote speaker for Juneteenth in Alabama, white man sat right in front of me and wrote literally every word that came out of my mouth. He wanted me to know he was an agent. He looked at me, then he went back on my merchandise table, took pictures of my DVDs. Yes. I'm watched. I'm sure Jabari's being watched. I'm sure many of you are being watched. Okay?
Every word you said, these two are sitting here right now.
Yeah, that's what they do. But it's too late for me to turn back. I use my real name. Bring that out too. But you got to remember, as times get more crucial, we're going to have to be more selective about any non-African we let in amongst us.
Exactly. I said that.
Okay, she just sneaked in because somebody thought she was light-skinned, brother tried to get a number. I'm just kidding. Okay. But you remember, Dr. King led the sanitation workers strike?
Yeah.
A couple nights before he was murdered. Remember the black guys who got into the confrontation that disintegrated the march, and Dr. King had to be rushed away. We found out later that those were paid FBI agitators. I'm saying that to say that you even got to watch the black people you work with. When that Trayvon Martin thing hit, you know how many phone calls I got from people I didn't know talking about, some brother, you need to come on down here and organize the people. And I don't even know you. You see what I'm saying? You're not going to get me somewhere where you can get me caught up in some nonsense because you got your fist in the air. Be careful. Okay? There are so-called RBG people on the government payroll. And I know it for a fact. Because I got an inside connect. Be careful. Some of the people on the lecture circuit, you better be careful. Okay? Anti-Drug Abuse Act of 1988, I call it the Kill All Drug Dealers Act. It denies federal benefits to drug users and traffickers. Up to $10,000 in fines for anybody, even if you're in possession of marijuana. A minimum, check this out, a minimum sentence of 20 years or death for anyone participating in a drug-related killing or who counsels someone else to participate. Now, of course, we don't want black people killing black people, but we know how the cops like to pin stuff on people who ain't done nothing. So you got brothers and sisters going to jail for a minimum of 20 years. For a minimum of 20 years, you got to watch this kind of stuff. And guess what? I didn't hear elected black officials say anything about that. Oh, did you hear about the new Obama executive order, him and Attorney General Holder? I learned about this in Boston at the Mass Incarceration Conference. They got this law. Y'all need to know this because some of y'all know people who are in jail. If you are arrested for a drug charge, the minimum sentencing law does not apply to you. Let me take that back. The minimum sentencing law doesn't have to apply to you if you were not a part of a gang, a drug gang, if you were not distributing the drugs. They can elect not to give you a mandatory minimum. Now the problem with that is what? Who ain't going to be associated with a group if you're selling drugs? The other thing is distribution. Who defines distribution? If I'm selling a nickel bag of crack, isn't that distribution? But here's the crazy thing about the law. It expires the day President Obama leaves office. This Negro created a 3-year law to make black people think he care about you. That's why. What? Yes. I forget the name of the law, but you can Google it. It was the topic of discussion in in Boston. Google President Obama and Attorney General Holder temporary law to reduce minimum mandatory sentencing for drug offenses. Google that. And it's the law that's saying that the prosecution or the judge can opt out if you were not part of a cartel and if you were not distributing. But if you're selling drugs, how are you not? And then the law expires when he leaves office. Who ever heard of a temporary law? And then we got the Violent Crime Control Act of 1991. $700 million for 10 regional prisons. The federal government has more prisons than most states now. The federal government has more prisoners than most states. $300 million for areas with high drug problems like Baltimore and Philly, right? And what do they use most of that money for? Jails and white cops. It bans certain semi-automatic weapons and requires a 5-day wait for handgun purchase. That's where that 5-day wait comes from. The death penalty for anybody with over 50 federal offenses restricts the delay of execution provision. In other words, you get the death sentence for a violent crime. Your lawyer is going to request a what? A stay of execution, right? To get your case together, fight against it. They can restrict that and cut that down. In other words, they can speed up the time between conviction and execution. They established 10 boot camps for children under the age of 25. This is where they scared straight. Remember the scared straight? where they take them out in the woods and a whole bunch of white men spit on them and yell at them for 10 hours and they're supposed to come back saved or something like that? Okay? And then 10 years sentence for selling to minors or having minors sell. You go to jail for automatic 10 years. And the interesting thing about this is around the George Herbert Walker Bush, Bill Clinton era. And the interesting thing about black people is y'all love Bill Clinton. But Bill Clinton put more black people in jail than any Republican president we ever had. He's the one who gave us mandatory minimum sentences. He's the one who gave us 3 strikes and you out. He's the one who helped support this law, even though it was initiated right before he came into office. But because he let black people play the saxophone at his inauguration and break dance, it was okay. So if you love Bill Clinton, they knew you was going to go bonkers for Obama. We got 10 more minutes and then we're going to wrap it up. Until Obama, you could only declare martial law for military-related reasons. Under Obama, martial law can be enacted for any reason without justification. Now, in terms of the health care law, this Obamacare, I need to be careful with Obamacare. Do you know that under Obamacare, if you don't have health insurance and can't afford it, you will be forced to buy it anyway? In other words, you can look at Obamacare as a third tax. I don't support it, okay? But I'm not riding with them racist Republicans either. Okay? But I don't support it because black people who already ain't making enough money are going to be forced to spend even more money that they ain't got. There's something else about Obamacare you need to know. There's a provision in Obamacare that if you're receiving a free insurance, you have to get a chip, an artificial chip placed in your body. Do your research. Yes. There's a chip that they're going to surgically implant in order for you to receive the free medical care. Now, let me tell you why I think they're going to do that. Do your research. Don't believe me, because some of y'all look like I didn't hear this on the 6 o'clock news. And you ain't going to hear it on the 6 o'clock news because they control the 6 o'clock news. Let me tell you why they want to chip all the blacks. Have you noticed that 10,000 black people go missing in America every year? Most of them will be heard of again. Do you know why? They are killing black people and taking your organs and giving them to old rich white people so they can live longer. Remember the Atlanta child murders? When they found all those dead infants and toddlers in a dumpster near the Center for Disease Control? That was no coincidence. The Center for Disease Control is snatching black kids and black adults off the street daily because they need humans for research models. Where else are you going to get them? So you got to teach your children, don't get in the car of a stranger. You can't even get in the car of somebody with a 3-piece suit on no more. That's right. They need your pineal glands. They need your kidney, your heart, your liver, your lungs. Black people are the oldest people, and as a result of you being the oldest and the mother and father of civilization, your organs are basically adaptable to anybody else on the planet. So if I need hearts, I want black ones, because if an Asian need a heart, or a white man need a heart, or an East Indian need a heart, or a Jew need a heart, 9 times out of 10, the black one will match. Because you have the parent DNA in you. You have the parent cells in you. Henrietta Lacks. You match to everybody. That's why you have to stop voluntarily becoming organ donors on your driver's license. You don't do that. What you do is you put in your will, you specify that if I die, my organs could be used for relatives, close friends, or other black people. Because you're not giving my heart to George Bush. You ain't giving my heart to Adolf Hitler. Y'all follow me? They will take your heart and give it to a cracker to live longer to kill more black people. So one day you coming out the gas station and guess what? You get hit by a Mack truck. Oh, so sad. She was a single mother of 5 kids. She wasn't looking. She didn't look both ways. And the Mack truck just hit her. Do you know that was an orchestrated hit? Because your heart matches some rich white person in England who you never heard of, who needs your heart? There's no such thing as that many black people disappearing every year. Why is it the same amount? They stealing us, y'all.